From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And coming up on the show today, we officially know what Ryan Murphy's next season of Monster on Netflix, that's his series where he chronicles different real-life monsters like serial killers through time. We officially know what this next season is going to be about, and the fact that he's cast a Nepo baby who is part of huge Hollywood lore as the lead actress. We're going to get into that. Plus, Kylie Jenner has released a surprising new video on Snapchat of all platforms. It's kind of harkening back to her most famous era. There's been a lot of backlash around it. We're going to get into that. But first...
So in some more streaming news, we have all been very, very excited about the new Bridgerton season, but I feel like not everyone has been talking about the new season of Stranger Things, season 5, which we are finally getting. So if you don't remember, season 4 actually aired back in 2022. So it's been like 3 years. We have all been waiting very patiently to see what's going to happen to the Vecna and the Upside Down. And we finally have some details. So it's going to be in 3 parts. We're going to get volume 1 will be 4 episodes. That drops on November 26, 2025. Volume 2 is 3 episodes. That's going to be out on Christmas Day this year, and the series finale will air on New Year's Eve. Now, the big story around all of this is the length of the episodes. That seems to be the biggest story of it all.
Yes, because the Duffer Brothers who created the show, because they've had many, many years to tease fans with what's coming up and to sort of get people's excitement really heightened, one of the things they kept alluding to fans is that this last season was going to have these potential like feature-length movie episodes, or at least the fact that the episodes would be longer than we've seen before.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people were thinking they were going to be around that 90-minute mark, which is what like a kid's movie would be. That's kind of at that 90-minute mark. Most movies are around that 2 to 3 hour mark. The first 4 episodes look like they're going to be from 54 to 83 minutes. So between an hour and an hour and a half.
Yeah, for a TV episode that's actually quite wild timing. Like that's each episode nearly being a movie length. So they have made good on that promise, especially now considering most episodes of TV shows that come out are around the 30-minute mark, some even the 25-minute mark. So it's almost doubled it, which is crazy.
Well, back when you used to have ads, a sitcom was 22 minutes plus ads. That is the length of a sitcom, right? So that was your standard length of a series episode. And now with Netflix and streaming, we don't have that anymore. So people have a lot more flexibility with how long they can make things. We don't know how long the remaining 2 episodes will be at this point. We'll probably see the finale being more around that 2-hour mark.
Yeah, I'd say they'd be even longer. Like that's going to be a huge amount of story to close out.
Yeah, so basically they wrapped this filming back at the end of 2024 after a full year of production. What the story is going to be focusing on is it's set in the autumn of 1987 off the back of season 4's events. It's been so long, I kind of completely forgot about it. But so they're basically still sort of worrying about what's happened in the rifts and what's happening in the Upside Down. And they're finally needing to go back and, finally defeat the Vecna, finally sort of conquer evil once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, because that was a really like horrific last episode of that last season, because we had Max be kind of like swept up into like Vecna's world, and she was still in hospital, and there was like a lot of question marks over whether she would survive. Like we know Sadie Sinks in this next season. We don't know what's going to happen to her. And then that final shot was of them all standing and looking out as like the Upside Down came into their world. And so that was also a huge thing. And they've also alluded to the fact that like a lot of the main characters aren't going to survive this final season.
So here's my issue with this. I love this series. When it first came out in 2016, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really, really liked the show. Millie Bobby Brown has obviously gone on to do some incredible things. We love her. My issue with this is with the first season in 2016, so that's season 1. Season 2 was 2017, a year later. That's fine. Season 3, 2019. Season 4, 2022. And now we're getting the final season in 2025. It's too long. I have let that part of my life go. Like my attention span is not good enough to wait this long. I will watch it because I do like the show and I think it's a good series. But for 3 years we've been waiting. It's dropped out of a lot of people's heads by now.
Oh, I mean, I think there's a few people who might have to maybe rewatch the last episode, but I don't think it's gone out of people's heads at all. I think that if they would never not make this last season because it's such a huge, huge money maker for Netflix. It's one of their most watched shows of all time. And I'm sure this final episode will break all kinds of records. But also people would riot in the streets if they didn't get the ending to this series. So I think it'll be huge. Yes, it would have been better earlier, but I think that there was so much they said there was a lot of production issues behind the scenes in terms of it was such a huge storyline to film. We've also had writer strikes and actor strikes in that time, which I think pushed it a little bit further. So yeah, it probably would have been more momentum to have maybe even a 2-year break, but I still think it'll be huge.
You can't keep using COVID as an excuse anymore.
Oh, I didn't think about COVID. Yeah, that too.
Well, I think that's probably what delayed production for season 4. I just, it was such a moment when it first came. I feel like it was one of Netflix's first big, created shows that they created in-house. It brought us back Winona Ryder. It brought us Millie Bobby Brown. It brought us all of those kids. It brought us 11. I actually went as 11 to Halloween one year.
Oh, that's very cute.
Yeah. I actually made a really cute purse out of an Eggo's container.
Oh, cute.
It was cute. I loved it. But that was so long ago.
Yeah.
I don't dress up anymore. But yeah, look, it will be airing later on this year. I will be watching it, but I'm just sad that it's taken so long to get to this point. So Ryan Murphy's hit series Monsters on Netflix has definitely been a huge show for us. We started off with the Jeffrey Dahmer series. We then had the Menendez brothers, and the most recent one has been the Ed Gein story with Charlie Hunnam. So the next series that we're going to be getting is the story of Lizzie Borden. The series is now in pre-production. We've got a cast list. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but I want to just give people a little bit of an insight into this case if you haven't heard of it or if you're not a true crime person. You're not a massive true crime person, but you know this story, don't you?
Well, yeah, I feel like Lizzie Borden in particular has become such a huge part of pop culture. I feel like people she's become one of those costumes that you can just dress as a young girl holding an axe. Everyone knows that you're being Lizzie Borden. And I did watch that the one that Christina Ricci was in, the Lizzie Borden Chronicles, and there was also that 2018 feature film that had Chloe Sevigny and Kristen Stewart, two of my favorite actresses. So I watched that. So I'm very across the Lizzie Borden lore.
Yes. So in case you don't know, I did actually just recently, very coincidentally, listen to a whole podcast episode, true crime podcast episode on this particular case. So it takes place in 1892 in Massachusetts, which is my favorite American state to say because I just really feel like it is a fun word. So on the morning of 4th of August, there was a brutal attack in the Borden house, and Lizzie's father, Andrew, and stepmother, Abby, were killed with a hatchet, not an axe. I mean, there is a big difference, Laura.
Okay. Well, I don't really want to be killed by either one.
No, I know. So the hatchet is a hatchet is a small axe. And apparently this is one of the big, sometimes true crime people get very particular about this particular point in the case because it's a hatchet, not an axe. Anyway, silly little detail. Now, the other reason why this story was so crazy is because she was actually put on trial for this particular murder and acquitted, and the real murderer was never found. Now, most people believe that it was in fact her, but a lot of the reasoning behind her not being convicted was because back in the 1890s, it was not believed that a woman could commit this level of heinous violence. Women were known, if they killed, women killed with poison, not with this level of violence.
Yeah. Do we know how old she was at the time? Because I feel like how pop culture takes stories and costumes kind of dilute things and the way things are talked about. So she's always depicted sometimes as being a little girl or a teenager.
So she was 32.
Oh, Jesus.
But she was always single and back in that era at 32 to be unmarried. Well,
it's a wonder then they didn't depict her in history as an old hag if she was 32 and unmarried.
Well, she died alone.
God forbid.
She never married. She was died of pneumonia. But the other really interesting part of this case is the house itself in Massachusetts, which actually still stands. Today it's a bed and breakfast, and you can go and sleep in the room where her stepmother died, which is grim.
People would be lining up for that.
Apparently it's very interesting and you can go on historical tours in there. Now, the reason why the house is so popular is because it's very unusual. So all of the house is a very strange layout. So you have to walk through bedrooms to get to the kitchen and every single door had a lock on it and a different key. And so I think there was sort of speculation that, Andrew, the father, was, really, really abusive, and Lizzie was, it was a weird house. There was stuff going on in there that was very, very strange. So this is what the new season of Monsters is going to be on, which I'm actually very excited because this case particularly, I think there's a lot of room to add that sort of creative license because there is still so much mystery surrounding it. And I think that because it was so long ago, that morality around highlighting victims and sort of taking advantage of victims isn't really there anymore because it was in the 1890s.
Yeah.
So I am really excited for this particular story.
Yeah, and the first time there's been a female-led story in this monster franchise, which is interesting. And I think it's interesting they picked this instead of some of the more like hardcore serial killer.
Yeah, they didn't go with
women in history.
Eileen Warnock or something. They did something. I think this has a little bit more mystery to it, and I think it'll be more interesting as a story because of the mystery behind it.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, this might be the first time they're hearing about her.
Yeah, I think it is for a lot of people. I think in the States it's a lot more well-known.
Yeah.
I think in Australia maybe not as well-known. The casting.
Yes, so it was just been announced this week that Ella Beatty is going to be playing Lizzie. So her first role was in another Ryan Murphy series, Capote vs. the Swans, which told the story of Truman Capote and all the women in New York society that he eventually took down and the fraught relationship. So that was Ella's first role, and she's been cast as Lizzie. And it's kind of very on-the-nose casting from Ryan Murphy because he loves to cast in his shows because he loves to blur the line between like crime and Hollywood and reality and all these things. He loves to cast a Nepo baby like an Emma Roberts, or I guess she's a Nepo niece in that way, or someone who's really adjacent to fame like a Kim Kardashian or something like that, or someone who has
Lady Gaga in American Horror Story.
Lady Gaga, like he loves to bring in like iconic actresses like a Chloe Sevigny, someone who's like very cool, and so he's cast Ella Beatty. Now if anyone's not across who Ella Beatty is, she is the youngest child of Annette Bening and Warren Beatty, who have one of the most famous relationships and marriages in Hollywood.
Yes. So I don't know Warren Beatty is kind of one of those people in my mind where I know he's a big Hollywood star. I was looking at his IMDb. It's not someone who's like, I've seen a lot of his movies because most of the movies that he made were before my time. But obviously a very famous man in Hollywood, writer, director, producer. He's been a real fixture in the landscape.
Yeah, he's very like an old, well, he's in his late 80s now.
Yeah, he's old now.
He's been in the game for a long time. He was one of those very like old school, iconic Hollywood stars. And Annette Bening's obviously still acting quite a bit now and has also been in a lot of iconic movies. I guess even like American Beauty people would know her from, but she's done other stuff. That's just the one I'm like, she should have got that Oscar. So their story has become very infamous in Hollywood. And it's almost become like a shorthand for when a woman tames like a wild man. If you ever hear anyone say, oh, she pulled an Annette Bening, or you have to say you're one of your friends, like you probably shouldn't pull at Annette Bening. It's this idea that a woman can change a man, that she can tame his wild ways simply by making him fall in love with her, as Annette Bening did. So
he's like the original Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Well, even more intense than that. So Warren and Annette.
He's a big man, huh?
Yeah, someone. It's so funny because I've been looking up stuff about them after this casting news, and so my TikTok algorithm has picked that up, and I heard one like girl in her 20s say like, does everyone know that Warren Beatty is the biggest slut in Hollywood? And I was like, well, that is one way to put it. So they got married in 1992. They have 4 children together. They met when he was doing casting for this movie Bugsy, and he called her up and brought her in for lunch so they could talk about the movie. And the story
lunch.
Yeah. Well, apparently they did have lunch.
Wink.
The story was that as soon as they left lunch, he went back to his office, called his manager and said, I'm going to marry this woman. I'm giving her the lead in the movie, but I'm also going to marry her. And he said that he fell in love with her in like less than 10 minutes from where they met. This is like in the early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, in the early 90s. Important to note that at the time he was 53 and she was 32. They had been married since 1992, so they've had a very strong marriage. But some people are like, was he just tired? Is that how you catch a man? Because Warren Beatty was known as the most infamous kind of like boyfriend, lover of Hollywood. So he had a lot of famous girlfriends. He dated Diane Keaton for many years.
Well, I was going to say, I did see that.
Well, the thing about them is they dated from, I think it was 1981 to 1986. So they were together for a while, but they also remained very good friends throughout their lives.
She dated some great men.
Yeah, she had, again, Diane Keaton had it going on. She could pull any man she wanted. He also dated Brigitte Bardot, Carly Simon, Cher, Joan Collins, Madonna, Barbara Streisand, like, and they're just a lot of the girlfriends because they were famous that we know about.
Yeah.
He dated a lot of them, and it was always this thing of like, who was Warren Beatty going to come? I'm talking about like I was there. I wasn't born yet, but I've read a lot about it. That
You're an old soul.
It was
though,
always, and part of my soul, I just wasn't born yet, but part of my soul was there at the time. It was always this big thing of like, who was he going to turn up to a red carpet with? Who is his latest girlfriend? And the thing is, like, the story in Hollywood was like, no one can marry Warren Beatty. No one can nail him down. No one can sort of capture him into a marriage. He's the ultimate bachelor.
Yeah, he's a wild stud.
No one can tame him.
Put he's a bronco. You can't put a saddle on him.
Exactly, that was the thing. So there's even been the story, which he's never said it's true, but he's also, to my knowledge, never disputed it, that he has slept with over 12,000 women. And that, well, I mean, when you do the math, that's kind of
so gross.
From when he was like a teenager to his 50s when he got married. So that number comes from a biography that was written by writer Peter Biskind, who said the number that he had calculated. So he calculated off the number of women.
Did you say 12,000?
Well, the actual number that Peter, the biographer who wrote a book about Warren Beatty, he said that he went through and calculated like from when Warren Beatty said he first started dating till he was in his mid-50s and he married Annette Bedding, how many women he sort of estimated he hooked up with and how many women he was known to hook up with. And he calculated, he did maths, he had one of those big boards, and he said it was actually closer to 12,775. So that is the amount of women that Warren Beatty is said to have slept with.
I don't want to slut shame him, but that's too many.
It sounds like a lot, but also from your teen years to your 50s, if you're dating a new woman, like,
do you want me to do that?
Okay, if you're dating a new woman, even if it's just you're sleeping with one new woman a week.
Okay, let's very, very quickly. So let's just say he lost his virginity at 14, right? Like, let's say he started young. Let's say he started really young. So we're looking between the age of, what's that? So 50, how old
53.
Was he? Okay, so 53. How many years are there between 14 and 53?
If I could do that level of maths, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair, that's for sure.
53 minus 14. So that's 39 years of having sex. Mm-hmm. So there's 52 weeks in a year, right? Mm-hmm. 52 weeks in a year times 32 years is 1,664 weeks. So he slept with 12,000.
Is the estimate, yes.
Okay. So if there's 1,664 weeks in the 32 years he's been sexually active, and he slept with 12,000, that's more than one a week.
Well, no, that was just a conservative guess on my part, but I'm from him like being a lad about town, I'm sure it was multiple women a week, sometimes even a different woman every day.
Icky.
Is the vibe. So, I mean, that's the vibe.
I guarantee you that my maths is wrong on that because I'm so bad at maths, and even with my calculator, I couldn't work it out.
That's right. I'm sure we'll never get Warren Beatty to confirm. So the whole story, I mean, and the thing is, it was a different time too. So no, I don't think anyone really said anything about him being 53 and her being 32.
Of course they wouldn't.
That kind of seemed like the norm. But since then, they've had this kind of, at least, I mean, I don't know. There's never been, as far as I know, as far as been reported, any kind of reports of like cheating or anything in the marriage. Like, it's like he was this notorious Hollywood bad boy until the age of 53 when he walked into a restaurant, saw Annette Bedding, fell madly in love with her, and has been like by her side ever since.
What a mate.
And
cute.
Talks about the fact that she changed his life, and his life is so much, all these things that like when you're dating a guy who you know won't commit, that you want to hear that you'll be the one to change him, he'll change his ways for you, he just hadn't met the right girl yet, all these things. And she's like, but what thing is, I always tell my friends because weirdly Annette Bedding comes up a lot in my friends' conversations in dating. I'm always like, she is the exception, not the rule. That's not going to happen to most people.
Don't look at this and go, this is what's going to happen. Most of the time, they're not going to change.
Yeah, so it's very rare that someone would pull an Annette Bedding, as the saying goes. But yes, they're still together and still very much in love. And Ella is their youngest daughter, and the fact that now she's
that's right.
kind
We're
of
talking about Monster.
and she's going to play Lizzie Borden is how we've got to that. So I just
Yes.
think everyone should have that in mind when they're watching. And the thing is, apparently she is going to be like the new hot, like young actress
She's
of Hollywood.
stunning.
Like after she does Lizzie, there's a bunch of other projects that she's apparently doing. So she's kind of the next new actress, Nepo baby on the rise.
Yeah.
And I just thought everyone needed to be across where she came from.
It's a great
where she literally
story.
came from.
Great story. Also in the cast, even though I know we've done a big sort of roundabout way to go back to this, but I'm so glad that you told that story because it's so great. But also playing Andrew, the one who Lizzie Borden allegedly kills, is actually Charlie Hunnam again.
Yeah.
So Charlie just played Ed Gein, so he's coming back to the series, but this time as the victim.
Well, as we know, Ryan Murphy loves to have like his troupe of actors. Like he did it with American Horror Story. He did it with American Crime Story. He loves to have his troupe of actors that he recasts into different roles. I like Charlie Hunnam. I don't know how many people his dad has slept with. That makes me less interested in him, but I'm sure he's going to be fine.
I think he slept with his fair share of women as well.
Yeah, I hope
maybe
so.
not 12,000. That seems like a really high number to keep up with.
Yeah.
Maybe Leo would be up there.
Yes, maybe.
I would say Leo's up there.
Yeah, I can't wait for that tell-all. Someone write a biography on that.
So we don't have an air date yet. It is in pre-production at the moment, but super excited to see this one come to fruition. I'm, really, really excited.
So this week, Kylie Jenner made everyone do a little bit of a double take online when she teased that she had a big announcement coming. That's pretty par for the course with the Kardashians. They always have something rolling out. It was the fact that she told people that to see the announcement, they had to go to Snapchat.
This is insane. The fact that she's got so much pull that she can take someone back to a social media platform that has been basically moot now that TikTok is around.
Yeah, I feel like, I know some people still use Snapchat. I personally don't.
I think the youths still like it.
Yeah, I think, and then a lot of them have moved to TikTok and Insta, so don't have it as much. I don't think I ever had Snapchat. I had to go download it for the first time to watch this video, even though I know that Kylie eventually put it on her Instagram.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it in the spirit that she had intended, which was Snapchat, and our producer Mon thought I was doing it to Snapchat boys, and I just don't know if that's the kind of thing anyone should be doing.
I feel like the boys on there will be like 12.
Yeah, which is
a bit
upsetting.
weird.
And no, I don't. A few of my friends who like met guys on dating apps or
Snapchat-
and they'll be like,
Snapchat-
"Send me a Snapchat." I'm like, that means he doesn't. It means he's going to cheat on you, or he just wants nudes.
I feel
Anyway,
I remember Snapchat when it first came out. I used it very briefly because it was like the disappearing thing.
Yeah,
like
I
that
think
was
that's why.
But then I stopped using it. Even when everyone was using it, I just like couldn't. I was too many social media platforms. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, so Kylie Jenner herself also has gone off Snapchat in recent years using Instagram and TikTok more. But for a while there, it was her platform of choice. And it was kind of during the height of this like new level of fame that she found for herself in the kind of mid-2010s when she kind of broke away from the Kardashian-Jenner family in a way, or at least in the way that they all looked and operated for their fame. Yeah, exactly. The way they all dressed, the way they all did their makeup, the way that they all had this very kind of set plan of how they did launches and how they did products. Kylie, being the youngest of the family, kind of broke away and started posting more to different platforms, particularly Snapchat, and she went by the name King Kylie, which a lot of people said was inspired by her then boyfriend Tiger.
Yeah, and I think that this particular era is great for her. And in terms of her being a bit of like the black sheep of the family, I mean, Rob's the black sheep of the family, but out of the girls, she was always a little bit more alternative. You know, this is the era of the dip-dyed blue hair. This is the era of all the wigs, the heavy makeup, the lip liner. This was the, you know, black leather and, you know, tight and a bit more sort of punk, cool, like rocker kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, it was at the time when the Kardashian girls and even like Kendall Jenner to an extent were doing more of the kind of like almost like princessy bandage dress, really high glam look. And then Kylie Jenner, who had always been kind of like seen as like, I guess, the less pretty one of the sisters. Yeah. Like she and Chloe used to get a lot of backlash and people saying like Kendall's this beautiful model and Kylie's not. And it was like kind of like a really nasty time. I mean, it still is a nasty time on the internet, but it was then. And then Kylie kind of went sideways and she started posting a lot on different platforms like Snapchat, and she called herself King Kylie and her fans also called her that. And yes, she had like the really kind of, she would wear a lot of like wigs, so like pink or platinum blonde, and then the teal was like a really big thing. So when she had the full teal hair or just the teal strips, like streaks through her hair, which is captured in a very important moment on Keeping Up with the Kardashians when Kim married Kanye in Florence. I don't know if you remember that episode, but it was a whole thing. One, because they didn't allow the Keeping Up cameras there, so it's all just filmed on the family's iPhones. But the moment they're like about to fly to, I think it's Paris for the first part of the wedding festivities before they went to Italy, Kim and Kanye pull Kylie aside and they're like, are you going to do something to your hair? Because their whole wedding was like beige and white. There was no color. It's like it was Kim's dress was like white. The bridesmaids' dresses were white. The flowers are white. The tables are white. And then Kylie's got blue hair. Teal, but Kim called it blue. And she was like, oh, yeah, 100%. I've got hair extensions and I've got color spray and I'm going to cover it up. Don't worry. And on the day of the wedding, when they surprise Flo and everyone to Florence for the wedding, Kim does this piece to camera where she sees Kylie come in her white bridesmaid's dress and is like, she has blue hair at my wedding. I'm not going to say anything, but like is so angry. But that was like just very Kylie at the time. And
it is very, this particular period of Kylie is really ingrained in my brain because it's the year I started at E. It's the year I got the role at E. And so obviously Keeping Up with Kardashians was E's biggest show at the time. So, you know, I was very, very aware. And this is just so ingrained in my brain as that period of time. And, you know, that the Kylie Cosmetics launch, you know, in 2015, her lip kits, that was, again, such a moment. And, you know, she just started Kylie Cosmetics just with these lip kits, which was sold out like within minutes. And sort of she's created – it's been now over a decade of this brand. And I think obviously this particular campaign was a hark back to her roots. And I appreciate that. And I think that the nostalgia of it is great. However, the video has caused a little bit of backlash.
Yeah, so the whole thing about putting the video up is it was like a kind of throwback to this King Kylie era where, again, she got a lot of fame for the way she looked in her wigs, but as you're saying, particularly for doing these makeup tutorials that were just different to what the Kardashians were doing at the time because she would film them herself. They were very uncurated. She'd have her friends in the background and she'd show all her makeup tips. And that's obviously how the lip liner kits came to be so wildly successful and how Kylie Cosmetics was built. Obviously, she did come out later and say she did get lip filler, which she, at the time, was very staunchly saying, I've never had lip filler. It's just lip liner, which is why people bought the lips. But, you know, it's just the way that
really intense matte beige is like, I remember buying it and putting it on and being like, this is so, it looked awful on me. Like, I didn't have enough, like, plumpness in my lips. It just like went in all the cracks of my lips and it just did not look cute on me.
Yeah, and the amount that she would overdraw them too. Like I guess she can kind of make it work. It's the kind of thing that looks good in a photo or video, but if you see anyone walking around in the real world with their lips drawn up to like their nose, it doesn't work. But I mean, she does know makeup. She's really good and she knows how to like build a product and build an audience because when she posted that this thing was going to ham on Snapchat and that the King Kylie era was back, like her fan base was going absolutely nuts for it. And she also posted this old image that she'd put up on her socials from years ago saying like, what do you want Kylie Cosmetics to make? And then a lot of the products are taken from fan suggestions. So this whole thing of her wanting to celebrate this 10 years of Kylie Cosmetics is kind of her being like, I'm going back to my roots and I'm going back to the fans.
Yeah.
All that sort of thing. So then we have the video. And the video is a very old school King Kylie in terms of that she's got the teal in her hair, but it's also brand new Kylie Jenner in fact that she's styled to look like an old school Hollywood movie star in a way with the hair and the makeup.
Yeah, it's I appreciate what she's trying to do with it. I think the backlash of the video comes from the content of what she's actually doing and some of the images. So in a lot of the images, she's wearing like black leather bra pants. She's, you know, it's very sort of sexy dominatrixy and she's handcuffed.
Yes.
And
so
then she gets walked through a prison in the video and in handcuffs. And then Kris Jenner picks her up in a, you know, Rolls Royce and they go off into the
King Kylie number plate.
They go off into the sunset.
Yeah, it's very kind of like tongue in cheek and funny. So this whole thing of like she's been arrested, she's in a prison, she's in the interrogation room, again looking like a dominatrix bondage kind of thing, but with the old school King Kylie hair. And these two men are interrogating her and kind of almost like listing her achievements.
We've got you on multiple counts and being the baddest bitch on earth. Slaying 24/7. Just being an all-around impressive young lady.
Yeah.
And then they're seen to be like handcuffing her and leading her away. And there's this whole thing where then you see her walking out and the other prisoners are like, oh my God, she's leaving. And she gets in the car, and in the car is like the Kylie Cosmetics 10-year anniversary like pictures, and she's putting the lip gloss on. So if you watch it through that lens, it's kind of like quite innocent and kind of showing her as this like power player, and also she runs the business with her mum, Kris Jenner. Like they're in the Kylie Cosmetics office working together. So it's this whole thing of her mum being the getaway car driver. Some fans have pointed out that they think it's a little bit tone deaf to be showing this like young white woman essentially like being in police custody, being handcuffed, and then being able to just escape, and kind of treating it as a very kind of like sexy, fun thing, when they're saying like in the US at the moment, like there's a lot of issues with like prison reform and how prisoners are treated. There's a lot of issues at the moment, which have always been there, but have really escalated at the moment with Donald Trump being the president, in terms of like people who are seen as illegal, being illegal in America, being arrested off the streets by ICE and pulled into these detention centers and not having any rights. And they think that Kylie is kind of just not reading the room.
I think this kind of political climate that we're in at the moment, particularly in the States, the political climate is very fraught at the moment. Everything is kind of on everybody is on edge. And, these ICE raids that are happening, and, people sort of alleging that this is happening to innocent people and the problems there. I think that this should have probably been taken into account when she filmed this. And unfortunately, because she is so incredibly famous and incredibly successful and so privileged, it is a very sort of tone deaf. It does feel a little bit tone deaf. I'm sure she did not intend to do that at all. Like, she wasn't trying to do that, but I do think someone on her team probably should have said, maybe we can rework the creative a bit. It's kind of reminding me of the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing when you have like these really high profile, especially young women, kind of put these things out into the world that are meant to be like a bit sexy and a bit provocative. It can be looked at through a different lens that I'm sure them and their bubble didn't think of. On one stand, like, again, I'm not defending it from people who are upset by it, because I think the thing is, I think if you're upset by it, it's not because you're upset by Kylie Jenner or the video. It makes me think of the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad. Like, people weren't upset about Sydney Sweeney and jeans. They were upset about the wider issues that were happening.
Yes.
And how this linked to that. And if you're living in that really heightened state where you're like fearing for your life and family, then pop culture references will hit you a lot harder because it's part of your world. Whereas, someone like a Sydney Sweeney or a Kylie Jenner, I'm sure this isn't the kind of thing they're living with in their day-to-day life. So they don't think it's a big deal, but I understand why other people do. But yeah, it is like the Pepsi commercial. So when Kendall Jenner starred in that commercial, it was kind of almost like her being tapped to be one of these iconic supermodels, because other supermodels had done these Pepsi commercials, like Cindy Crawford.
Cindy Crawford's famous Pepsi ad, in those little denim shorts and her white tank top. Like, Pepsi was so iconic in that era for creating superstars. We've got Britney Spears did Pepsi, Beyonce did Pepsi, everybody did Pepsi. And then Kendall Jenner, poor thing's stopping a riot with a Pepsi.
Well,
that was the way that it came across afterwards. People, and this is again in a political climate where people were rioting and it was a Black Lives Matter movement. We're talking about a very, very heightened political environment, and in terms of like very, very divided nation. And then it didn't read the way they wanted it to. And I think in the same way, we're now in a political climate where, again, people are very divided. There's a lot of issues with people in immigration, people being detained illegally. There's so much, news around at the moment about the landscape. So to have something like that, it just kind of feeds into it, and it feeds off it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thread that people are looking at there. And, like, I don't think this is going to get the same attention as Kendall Jenner's Pepsi commercial did. That came at a time too when, it's still happening, but like a lot of riots, a lot of police brutality and allegations of brutality, a lot of people saying that they didn't feel safe around police or in the streets and all these kind of things. And then the idea was that to see a white woman just essentially end a riot and walk safely towards police was kind of making light of the situation. And obviously later on we saw Kendall Jenner sobbing on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, saying she never meant to hurt anyone. And
well, it wasn't her idea. She's not the one who created the campaign idea.
I know, but it is like when you're the face of it, you do take that's what the money's for.
But that's exactly right. That's what I mean. Like, unfortunately, the creative team who came up with it and hired her, she wouldn't have had any input on the creative at that point. She was still relatively new.
Yeah.
But there should have been some.
Yeah. So I don't think this is going to blow up to the same extent, but I just think that's that same idea of something on one hand can be seen as like really provocative and interesting. And also the whole like jail escape thing is an old thing through pop culture, going back to like the whole kind of Bonnie and Clyde, like on the run kind of thing of this. Yeah. That kind of like prison escape, and also the fact that they're reading out all of these things that Kylie's done, and when she sort of says like my lips are sealed, they're like it's so her, and that's like a nod to like her makeup brand and the product my lips are sealed, all those kind of things. So like if you look at it through that lens, it's very understandable. But yeah, anyone who was upset by that, I just think that that's also fair enough. But it hasn't stopped the video from racking up millions of views on Snapchat, on Instagram. Pre-orders for the collection, because it's celebrating the 10 years, have like allegedly gone wild. And I'm sure this will be like a huge moneymaker for her. And I think a lot of her fans want her to go fully back into the King Kylie era. But she's so removed from that now. Yeah. She's going to the Oscars in like couture gowns and being a mum of two and being behind the scenes. And it's kind of so funny because in the Snapchat video at one point, like she seems into it because I'm sure she was very invested in the idea, but she also just looks like kind of like she's just phoning it in, which is also a very Kylie Jenner thing, and how she appears on the Kardashians now.
Kylie Cosmetics has gone through a massive rebrand recently. Back in 2021, they did a rebrand. They sold the company. She sold a portion of the company in 2019. So look, the brand's gone through a lot of different changes lately, and I understand why she wanted to do this. I think it's a good, I think in concept it was a great idea. I just think that perhaps in light of the political climate, it was maybe just a little bit off there. But again, I don't think it's going to stop her getting those sales. She's clearly doing very well for herself.
And I'm sure we'll see some of this in the next season of the Kardashians. But they do things very late, so I'm just going to say like maybe 3 years' time, we'll see the making of this commercial, and she'll maybe do a little address to the Backlash then.